Now, we all know how to create a functional component in React. Let me show you how to create a class component. So let me first get rid of all this content and create this functional component using a simple React snippet. So let me get rid of this statement, and here I'm going to say RFC, React Functional Component. When I press enter, I'm going to have import statement with export function. To this div, I'm going to first specify a class name. I'm going to specify class app, and inside this app, I'm going to create h2 heading tag with text this is. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass parameter to this component. So to this user, I'm going to specify here parameter props. You can notice this time we pass props parameter to this function. A valid React component accepts a single props. This props stands for properties. React component accepts a single property object argument with a data and return a React element. I'm going to show you how you can use this property after a few seconds. But just for now, just pass these props to the functional component, and then I'm going to just pass here to this curly braces. I'm going to say here props dot name. I'm going to just access the property of this props name. Now let me create a class component. So to create a class component, I'm going to create a new file for that. So inside these components, I'm going to create a new file and name this file user class.js. That's upon you. You can specify any name to this file. I'm going to create user class.js and create a simple class component. So I'm going to first import the React module. So I'm going to say here import React from React. Just after that, to create a class component, you need to start the component with class keyword, just like you create a class in JavaScript. So I'm going to start with the class keyword, then specify the class name, or you can say the component name. I'm going to specify component name user class, and then we need to extend React component class, just like this. And in this parenthesis, you specify your class component. Now you can notice here I use extend keyword to extend the feature of the React component class. So I'm going to use all the features of React component class in my user class using this extend keyword. Extend keyword used for inheritance. Using inheritance, we can access the feature of the extended class, or you can say the inherited class. So when you want to create a React class component, you need to extend the React component class. Now let me show you a better way to create this class component. Instead of React component, here to this import statement, just out of this React, I'm going to pass comma here, and in the curly braces, I'm going to say component. So instead of React component, I can just say here component. That's it. So I'm going to just get the component class from this React module using these curly braces. I'm going to use that component class and extend it. Inside this class, I'm going to call a method called render. As you know, in the functional component, we use return statement to return the JSX. In class component, we use render method to render JSX. So inside this render method, I'm going to just return a JSX element. So inside this return, I'm going to simply call div with the class app, just like this. And just out of that, here I'm going to say h2 heading tag with text this is. I'm going to call here curly braces, and inside it I'm going to call here this dot props dot name. In the functional component, I use props, and in the class component, I use this dot props dot name. This is refers to the current object. Props is going to refers to the properties of this component, and then name is the property which we are going to pass when we call this component. Let me show you how you can pass value to this name property. But before that, don't forget to export this class. If you want, you can call here export statement, export default to export this user class, or you can just specify here export default like this. Both are identical. Now let me save the changes and back to my index.js. I imported this user functional component. Now let me just save this file. Let me show you the result first. As you can notice here, I have only this is as a result. Because if you just take a look at this functional component, then you can notice here I have this is, and then we have here props.name. But you can notice here I don't have any value to this name property. We need to pass value when I call this component. So in the index.js, when I call this user, I need to pass this name property. So here I'm going to just simply say name is equal to, and I'm going to pass value here. So I'm going to just simply say here MERN stat. Let me save the changes, and as you can notice, I'm going to have this MERN tag as a result. So as you can notice, when I call this user component, I'm going to just pass value to this name property. I'm going to do the same to this user class component as well. Let me show you. If I just call this user class component instead of this user, if I say here user class, and instead of this import user, I'm going to say here user class. Let me call this component down here like this. Then when I save the changes, I'm going to have the same result. This name value is going to pass to this name property. We will look at what is the benefit of using class component and a functional component in the future lectures. But just for now, just consider this props as a property of your component. So using this prop, you can pass value to your component, whether it is functional or class component. But just keep in mind, functional component just take props as a property, and a class component use this dot props to access the property of the component. We use this property to pass value to the component. Now the benefit of using this property is you can pass different values to this component. Let me show you. If I just duplicate this user like this, and if I pass different value, if I say here daily tuition, and if I change this to YouTube, then you can notice I'm going to have the different values here using the same component. So the same component can reuse multiple times with this technique. Now at the end, keep in mind all React components are pure functions. Means they do not attempt to change their input and always return the same result for the same input. So if you want to change this value of these components, change that value before you pass that to this property. So if you want to change the value of a React component properties, change it here or create a function to do that. Next, we're going to take a look at the React state.